Welcome to this presentation of the Relo-Global Property Management Tools. In this video, we will explore the features of the Tenancy Management module. We will walk through how to create a property and create a tenancy contract on that new property. We'll see which notifications the tenant will receive and how to record rental payments. Let's start here on the Relo-Global dashboard home screen. On the left side menu, you can see the Property Management section near the bottom of the menu. To manage properties with this module, select the Property List menu item. This screen lists properties that have been added to the system already. You can see that since this account is new, there are no available properties listed yet. Let's get started by adding a property to the list. Select Add a Property to begin. On the Add a Property screen, there are a number of important fields that should be completed. The property name is an informal name for the property and may contain a reference number from your existing stock. Select the landlord and owner from the drop-down menus. You may need to use Manage Assignees to add a new user if they aren't yet listed. Now we come to the section about the property itself. The building name can be entered here and forms the very first line of the address when displayed to the tenant, plus is the headline for the tenancy contract section we'll see later on. Enter a building name as we do here. Next, you'll need to select what type of property this is from the options available. This allows us to tailor the tenant experience to cater for the needs of the specific property type, and it will also show on any completed tenancy contract forms later on. Enter the number of air conditioning units at the property, along with the property size in square meters. For rental properties in Dubai, the DIWA premise number and plot number can be found on the property deeds. Enter the full address of the property, as it appears on the documentation, and click on the Save button at the bottom of the screen. We're immediately taken into the new property that we just created. You can see clearly the landlord, owner, and current tenant details at a glance from this overview screen. On the Property Data tab, you'll find all of the information we just entered into this new property. You're able to change most of this information as the property is bought, sold, or is otherwise updated. Next, choose the Tenancy Contracts tab to get started onboarding a tenant to this property. Like before, this property is new, so no tenancy contracts exist yet on this property. Click Create a Contract to get started with a new tenancy. Start by selecting the appropriate type of contract you are recording in the system. This selection affects the contract forms and reminder timelines of the tenancy contract duration. Select a tenant. Again, use the Manage Assignees link to add another user to the system if your tenant has not yet been given an account. This process is simple and takes about a minute. If this property is being sublet by the company that you represent, you can choose how to display the landlord data here. Choose either the name of your landlord or the name of your company. The contract start and end dates are very important, as they form the basis of every tenancy contract's rental term. Make sure that you enter these dates correctly, as they cannot be changed later. Both rental payment and reminder schedules will be set out based on the dates selected here. The Renewal Deadline Days field tells the system when the tenancy needs to be renewed, amended, or cancelled. The standard is usually 90 days, and you're free to amend that to suit this contract. The Response Deadline Days is the time before the notice period that you'd like to receive the tenant's decision. So, in this example, we would expect the tenant to give their instructions regarding tenancy continuation on or before the date 97 days before the tenancy ends. Reminder emails will then be scheduled accordingly, to give the tenant plenty of time to reply. Moving on, and we enter information about the contract value. Starting with the annual total rental amount. In this example, we're entering 180,000. Then, enter the amount of deposit held by the landlord for this tenancy. Select the day of the month the rent is due. You can choose between the 1st and 28th of each month. The payment schedule determines how the rent is broken down into payments. Select 1 to 12 checks, bank transfer, or other applicable payment method. You can also select whether you would like to email the tenant each time a rental payment is due, giving them a few days' notice to make the payment. You may have agreed some contract addendums with the landlord and tenant. You can add up to 8 addendums here. If you decide you've added too many, you can simply delete one using the Delete Addendum button. Enter the addendum as you'd like it to appear on the contract. If the property is sublet, you can select this checkbox and enter the sublet value for reporting purposes later. Confirm that the details you have entered are correct. Remember, you can't change the contract start and end dates once it's been confirmed. Here's the new tenancy contract. From left to right, we can see the internal ID of the contract, issued by the Relo-Global platform. Next, the property address and tenant involved in the contract we just created. The contract type shows the jurisdiction of the contract, and the rental payment schedule has been calculated according to the number of payments and contract start and end dates you selected when setting up the contract. Switch on and off rental reminders using this drop-down selected. The other information, including the renewal deadline and reminder schedule, is pretty self-explanatory, except to say that you can pause the renewal reminders once the tenant responds with their renewal decision. Under the Actions menu, we can view this tenancy contract in more detail. The tenant will also be able to see this screen. Here's a summary of the property and contract value for the tenant's benefit. Select Download Contract to view a completed contract in the format type selected. In this example, we see a Dubai RERA contract completed using the information about the tenancy, downloaded as a PDF document. As we scroll down past the contract information, we reach the addendum that we added earlier. From the Rental Payment Schedule tab, we find the dates the rental payments are due from the tenant. This is laid out according to the details of the payment scheduled when creating the contract. Between 1 and 12 payments could be listed here depending on the agreed schedule. Email notifications will be sent for each of these payments, and the manager can record payments by clicking here and entering the information received via the banking app or from the landlord. Enter notes to ensure you can account for the payments easily later. Once entered, payments can be viewed by clicking this button. It is important to observe here that multiple payments can be recorded for each scheduled event. Only once the payments add up to the expected payment amount does the system mark the status as paid. Upon returning to the property list, we see a summary of all the changes we made today. Thanks for listening.